All right. Hello, and welcome to another edition of Elevating with Marcia and Mike. I'm your host, Marcia Hawkins, along with Mike Athos. And today we've got a great show for you. But first, let's bring Mike on. Hi, Mike.
Hey, Marcia, excited to chat with you today.
Yeah, I'm excited about this topic because I have run into a brick wall with a few people today on this exact topic, and I want to tackle it head on because I think it's super important. So today we're going to be talking about what it is and why people, what the reason and why people can commit to a short-term decision that in the initial time frame, gives them the instant gratification they're looking for, but it can have long-term devastating effects. And I said to you prior to us going on the air how if we could solve this, we would probably be the wealthiest people in the world. Agreed?
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, let's conquer this issue right now.
We're going to conquer it today in our podcast. Too funny. But I guess I was driving today and I was just thinking about, just that why people make decisions that in the short term kind of give them a little bit of a good feeling, but in the back of their mind, they know it's horrible. So, one thing that came to mind was I had a phone call earlier today. Everyone knows I do insurance, and a very distraught young woman called me and said that she needed to cancel her dad's business owner policy, that he was in the hospital and things were not looking good. And she just, of course, the humanitarian me was like, oh my gosh, is everything okay? And
Yeah.
she said back in November, he started having some, swallowing problems and he wasn't feeling that great. And he went to urgent care and they told him he had strep throat, which he clearly did not have strep throat. And, of course, again, instinctively, in retrospect, did mention he hadn't felt well for quite some time, but he went to urgent care, kind of heard what he wanted to hear, came home, and 4 weeks later, he's in the hospital with stage 5 esophageal cancer.
Oh man. Yeah.
And but one of the things the daughter said to me was he said to her, really, I've got nobody to blame but myself. I was a heavy smoker since I can remember. So again, you pick up that cigarette, you light the cigarette, you smoke it, and there's warnings all over the box. I mean, how many times have you seen that ad with the person talking out their larynx
Oh
because
yeah. Those are just
that doesn't make you quit smoking nothing well.
right. Yeah.
No, but
That,
it,
that,
it,
that quick
it
that quick
applies.
nicotine fix it doesn't overcome seeing that image in my head. But yeah.
Yeah, and whether it's alcohol or smoking or overeating, I mean, let's be serious. Twinkies are just not that good, but
Yeah.
in the moment, apparently they are. So, what do you think it is? What is it that someone is going to look at something that says warning may cause cancer, and they're lighten up? I honestly don't get that. Do you have any insight as to what you think goes on in
I
someone's
think
mind?
it's yeah, I think it's lifestyle and conditioning, and I think that people are always looking for that short term fix. They're looking for that like you don't pick up smoking because it tastes good. Like I don't smoke. Never had. I mean, I tried it when I was like a teenager, but
Well, we all did that.
yeah, everyone did. But I was like, this is disgusting, right? But then you overcome that and you get that nicotine buzz, and people love it. So I don't know. I mean, they're looking for that short term. Let me get through the end of the day. They're not thinking about tomorrow, and they're not thinking about the next day. They're thinking about what are the long term implications of it. And I think it- I can understand how that happens, but there's got to be something in the back of their head always that's saying, "I got to stop this. This has got to get knocked out." I mean, what do you think? I mean, it's got to be one of those things that like everyone knows they know they need to change that decision, but why don't they?
I think it's in part that I think that whether it's alcohol, the vaping, cigarettes, our food supply, especially
Yeah.
here as it pertains to the United States, is I'm going to say it tainted. Sets us up for failure. You can't swing a dead cat now without running into a dispensary. I'm not
Yeah.
here to advocate or not advocate for marijuana use. Again, I just believe that there's major decisions that are being made that once in it, if you have that addictive personality, you've gone down that slippery slope. But here's the other piece of it that I think is overriding it, because regardless, rat poison is readily available, but I'm not chewing on that.
Sure.
I'm not.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that are not good for us that we go to great lengths to avoid. But what I think it is, Mike, is that I think people never. I think they live in a bubble of it'll never happen to me. This only happens to other people. This does not happen to me. And I can remember on a personal note, um, my when my sister got diagnosed with ALS, I had it's a long story, but I ended up flying to Indianapolis to take her to the neurologist because I, saw what was going on, did a little research, had it in my mind. I was praying for MS, believe it or not, over ALS.
Okay.
And unfortunately, she did have ALS and she passed about 18 months after that diagnosis. But in my mind, as I was driving her over there, it's almost like an out of body experience. And you think, no, this is not going to happen. I can remember a friend I went to high school with. I found out she had died of ALS, and I thought, oh my gosh, that's so awful. I can't believe that actually happens to people. Never thinking that it would happen to my family. And I think we just have this invincibility that we live our day to day life on. I don't understand it, but I do. We all just think, oh, well, that just happens to everybody else. That doesn't happen to me. I read something on the internet the other day. They said, you know, if you understand that, yes, it can happen to you, you almost get a better appreciation of your life, because you start to realize, yes, that can happen to me. But I think when people are smoking or drinking or overeating or not exercising and making really bad decisions for their bodies, not, practicing good health habits, simple things like going to the dentist twice a year and getting your teeth cleaned, and your oral health is a complete gateway to your overall health. But yet people will not go to the dentist. Like, I don't get that. But I do believe it comes down to they know it's a possibility, but their mind overrides it with, yeah, but not for me. That happens to other
Sure.
people.
I agree with you. I mean, a lot of people, you throw it in the back of your mind, this can't happen to me. As you were talking about that, I was thinking about a time in my insurance career, and I've worked in the life insurance space for years and years, and I've worked with there's several different IMOs, insurance marketing organizations that I basically run my contracts through, and they help with leads and training and that sort of thing with my agency. But I remember being with an agency or with an IMO and realizing that down the road they were not making some changes, and there were other companies, there were competitors that were making changes, and I'm like, well, I'm ultimately going to get smoked here. If these changes aren't done, then I'm going to get smoked. And then in the back of my head, I was like, oh no, it won't happen to me. That won't happen. I can change this, and this, and not make the drastic change that I needed to make. And lo and behold, Marcia, the drastic changes that I needed to make didn't happen because I thought I could. It wasn't going to happen to me, and it nearly put me out of business. I remember being in a situation. This was like 20 2015, and I was like, I needed to have more carriers, I needed to have better leads, I needed to have a better platform. And by not making that decision and making a change there, what I thought was going to happen in the back of my head, I knew was going to happen. It did happen, and that to me, it's just like sitting there saying, well, I'm going to smoke a pack of cigarettes a day, and I won't get cancer. I'll be fine. And then 20 years later, 30 years later, whatever that is, if you watch that TV commercial, it makes you think that like 3 days later you're gonna be smoking out of your throat. But I mean that sort of thing happens, and so it happens from a health standpoint, but it also, I mean, I've seen it happen firsthand in business where you don't make a change, and all of a sudden you got a long road ahead of you just to try to make up the ground of decisions that you needed to make.
Well, let me ask you this. Had you played the tape forward, would you have made those decisions?
Um, Had I played the tape forward, I probably would have made a lot of different decisions. I probably would have capitalized more on the things that I could have capitalized right then and there, and then I probably would have developed some exit strategies and some diversification strategies as well.
Mhm.
Looking at it, this is 15 years into the business, but there's definitely some things that I wish I knew back then that I didn't, but I know now, and things would have been different if I mean, and that's kind of an unfortunate way to look at a career trajectory or a path, but at the same time, you got to be able to listen to your gut and listen to those little voices in the back of your head saying this could be an issue, and that was something. Yeah, I wish I made some changes faster back then.
Mhm. Well, I think also that what people end up doing is they allow distractions and things to kind of turn away. I think as you know, as a whole, I believe people are not good at the power of decision. And you know, Tony Robbins talks about that a lot, and
Yeah.
I wholeheartedly believe that. You know, I do this on every show, and I my 3x5 cards, and I always have like a hot list, if you will, of things that I need to do. And whenever I get an opportunity, a snow day or something where I'm not commuting, and you know I'm doing my appointments via Zoom or whatever, I always try when I've got an hour. I'm like, all right, what can I tackle on that list? I am the absolute opposite of a procrastinator. If I have
You
a
are.
window of
I can
time,
firsthand say that you were the opposite of a procrastinator.
yeah, and I look at a time frame and go, okay, what can I put into that 15-minute time frame that I'm going to be able to, you know, do something that's going to make a difference. And so I try to have tasks at hand that need to be accomplished by how much time they're going to take me. So when I do get a time frame, you know, today my schedule got completely torn upside down because I thought I had a 5 o'clock, and it ended up they moved it to noon. And as you know, we were going to tape the show earlier, and you know, but
Yeah,
I always can adapt and get things done. And you know, in my opinion, everything happens for a reason. But that said, I think that people almost love the distraction because whenever you talk to people, what I find fascinating is they'll say, "Oh, well, I was going to do that, but I had to interview someone Saturday that wants to start a business, and they wanted my insight because we do a lot of business consulting, whether it's payroll, starting a business, insurance, whatever. Mike and I do all that, and what ended up happening." You know, I was so grateful that they didn't say, well, you know, we've been wanting to do this, but we haven't got our logo done yet, because I told them the number one thing that people tell me when I get into a consultation is they will say, well, you know, I was going to get this going, but I haven't got my logo done. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, if I had a nickel for every time somebody told me that, I could retire. And I mean that.
yeah,
People get stuck on the things that really do not amount to anything, but it's a big, beautiful speed bump that they can put out there and say, well, that's why I didn't do it. So people love the distractions, they love the escapism, they love the distraction. And then when it happens, I have a friend who's a doctor, and she said, I will have someone come in that smokes a pack of cigarettes a day. I diagnose them with stage 5 lung cancer, and they look at me and go, why me? You,
yeah.
you know, and again, I'm not knocking anybody. I get it, but the whole point of this show is self reflection can be a beautiful, beautiful thing if you can be honest with yourself. I find it helpful to have people literally sit in front of a mirror and have that hard conversation with themselves. I guarantee you 99% of our listeners cannot do that. They cannot sit even on a Zoom. So start yourself a Zoom meeting and tape yourself talking to yourself. Like, why are you smoking? Why are you? And you know, it's so funny. Can you imagine if you had that let's say you smoked, Mike. Can you imagine having a 20-minute conversation with yourself, and you were a smoker and you're trying to talk yourself out of not smoking, and you end up getting stage 5 lung cancer and you pass away, and your daughter finds that video? How would that make you feel? Horrible,
Sure. Yeah.
horrible, horrible. So I really I encourage people to get on a Zoom meeting with themselves or get in front of a mirror and have that hard conversation with themselves. I believe in meditation, but this is really an awareness conversation that you need to have with yourself. Like, why are you smoking? Look at the lines on your face that it's causing. Look at the yellowness on your fingers. look at what you look like if you're drinking a bottle or two of
It's
wine every
it's
night.
so much bigger than that too. I mean, it's not just smoking because I don't think smoking is the biggest thing that's impacting people every day. But it could be little decisions. It could be you've been working the same job for
Mhm,
X amount of years, but you're afraid to go out and look for something else, or you
mhm.
want to start a business, but you just like what you said. But I don't have the logo, or I don't have the bank account set up, or I don't have the website, or I don't whatever that might be. And it's like get going, get off your butt and go do it. And
Just get
yeah.
going. Exactly.
Make those changes, and all of a sudden, I mean, if you just put together a list of all the changes you got to go knock out, just start ticking them off. That's the only way to make it happen. Is
I
have a real
agree, and I
conversation with
think
yourself
that if
about
more people, again, could pull out that mirror, self-reflection can be a beautiful thing, and have that, "Okay, Mike, why haven't you done this?" Or, "Marcia, why haven't you done this?" And I think if people could do that, and they could come up with a list of questions that they want to ask themselves and be really honest with themselves, I do believe that's where people could get the change made. It's kind of like, knowing you have to have a hard conversation, let's say with an employee or a spouse or a relative or somebody, and you have to have that uncomfortable, hard conversation with somebody. A lot of people practice it in their mind what they're going to say to that person and what they're going to do. I mean, I know when I've fired people, I've gone over in my mind what I'm going to say and
it. Yeah,
how I'm going to say it and why. And it's very easy when you have to, uh, you've got to bring somebody else into it, and they're the ones that are the recipient of it. But make yourself the recipient of that hard information that you need to go over with yourself, because I think the more we check ourselves, the more productive we can be, and ultimately the happier we are. And that's really what it comes down to. I'm always amazed, and I guess it kind of brings the whole show full circle. Is I'm just always amazed how a day will go by and you look at it and go, I don't think people look at it as valuable life estate, time. They kind of look at it as, oh yeah, tomorrow, I can't wait for tomorrow. Nobody is appreciative of the minute that they're in. I always say on a lot of my shows, I'm in the minute to win it. And I really believe 90% of us don't live our lives like that. And I
A-
have those days where I do it, but for
as
the most
cliche.
part, I am.
Yeah, as cliche as it sounds, I mean, you're not guaranteed tomorrow, and so I'd rather knock it out all out right now, and it's kind of like that eat that frog type of a concept, like
Mhm,
what are the things that you don't want to do? Go knock that out first, and then
mhm,
move forward. Because at the end of the day, you're going to feel a whole lot better if you take care of all those tasks that you need to get done. So
mhm,
there's nothing worse in my mind, and this is my me kind of where I'm at with in my life. Like if I lie down at the end of the night and I'm like, I didn't get this done, this done, this done, this done, but I had this blank space that I could have taken care of it. That's the worst feeling in the world. But if I'm back to back to back all day long and I'm knocking through my task list, that's a feeling of accomplishment. And so I know that as a business owner, as a dad, as a husband, I mean all those things, I want to be able to knock out as much as I can every single day and
mhm.
as quickly as
Well,
I
and it's a
possibly
great
can.
example you're setting for your daughter, and it really is. I mean, both my children have great work ethics because my husband and I do, and self inventory, whether it's mental, physical, whatever. I really encourage people. We've done shows about goals and rules, but taking an inventory of yourself and the decisions you're making on a daily basis, whether again, for your nutrition, for your good habits, your bad habits, and really taking inventory of that. Writing it down can be very powerful by looking at that and having that hard conversation with yourself. Like, okay, why am I drinking a bottle of wine every? I don't do that, but having that question. And I know a lot of people that do it, and they're like, that's just my time. That's mommy's little helper, and I just have to have that at the end of the day. And
No, mom juice.
yeah, and at the end of a couple of years, it really starts to take its toll, and then all of a sudden you're going, what was I thinking? Well, clearly you weren't,
Yeah,
clearly. So
yeah.
yeah, the whole theme is, take some inventory of yourself, have that hard conversation with yourself, because I really do believe that if you can get at the root as to why you're making those short term decisions for that instant gratification versus the long-term decision that's going to bring you peace, prosperity, good health, a better frame of mind, better relationships, better, you'll be a better employee, a better employer, a better, person. It's just, it's can be life changing. Absolutely.
Yeah. Marcia, in the last couple minutes here, you're reminding me of a lot of things, and I know you're a big fan of the military, and I know that your family is, I mean, big military family. My family has several members that serve as well. But all of this conversation reminds me of when you're trying to problem solve, and I think the SEAL teams do a very good job of this. They first identify where they are, and then they figure out where they need to be. And so
Mhm.
identifying where they are, taking inventory of where they are is a really big thing. All of this conversation just reminded me of that. I'm like, if you can identify where you are and where you want to be, you can come up with a game plan there,
Mhm.
you can change those short-term decisions so you can have that long-term impact.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, we got to close it out for today. We got to run. You've been
Yeah.
listening to Elevating with Marcia and Mike. And Mike, quickly, how can people get in touch with you? And then I will say the same.
Yeah, absolutely. The best way to reach me, a couple ways. So my website is bluewavefinancial.com. That's my company page there. You can always reach out to me there. And then my personal cell phone is 703-309-5543. So give that a ring. I'm
Absolutely.
happy to chat with you.
Yep. And my contact information is marciahawkinsagency.com. We'll have the links if you're listening to this podcast, the links below to both of our websites, along with my cell number 413-374-2100. Mike and I are available to provide your business with business consultation services. And we have a plethora of products and services available to you to help you look and feel your best along with running your business at its best. Again, you've been listening to Elevating with Marcia and Mike. We'll be back next week with another edition. Till then, take care.